For folks tuning in, Aakash and I were talking about like what it takes to just to migrate and engineer a completely new next generation data lakehouse migration at Twilio, and we're thinking about like what does it take to get there, and so it's clear to everybody that there's just a limitation with the previous kind of like paradigm of how things were supposed to be built. It isn't that somebody did something wrong. It's just we couldn't quite see past the horizon as it was when we were building the last version. Is it something?
Exactly, yeah. And that's how we evolve also, right? From we move from Hadoop to a Spark to someone that's like, oh, okay, we need a real time. Now, like a Spark is also good. We need more for AI applications. So we are looking to Ray and those kind of frameworks. It's always like new problems come up, and then you see that okay, how much I can change the existing one. If not, then you have to build something new.
Yeah. Akash, I'll be back in 15 minutes. The stage is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aakash. I'm a principal engineer at Twilio. Today, I'm going to talk about data mesh and governance. And in this talk, probably we'll look into what problem we're going to solve in Twilio, what is data mesh, and how it helps us to solve that problem. We're going to look into some of the implementation and the strategies and high-level architecture, and some of the challenges around that. So let's get into that. So first, before I get into, let's little bit intro about Twilio. Twilio is a cloud communication platform. It provides a programmable API for all the communication channels to reach out to your customer. We also like to call ourselves as a customer engagement platform. So with that, let's look into what was the problem we had before we went to database. So if you look at this is the architecture we had for data platform where messaging, billings, and different kind of domains in Twilio, they are providing their data to a central team data platform to manage it in a data lake, manage the governance on top of that, and manage the GDPR compliance kind of things, and also provide lot of transforms, apply a lot of transforms, and make those data available for consumption from Looker and Tableau. This was working well for like last few years, but as Twilio organically growing a lot, we started to see some problems with that. One is like because there is a central team handling, though this team has kind of automated a lot of onboarding, self-servicing, and all that, but still we saw that whenever there is a very nested schema changes happening, there is a new data set come up with the GDPR requirement. There is a new quality concerns comes up that okay, this data doesn't have a good quality. How to fix that? Now, because you're part of central team, you may not have good understanding of all the domain data. So now you're working with domain, and that's causing a slow in your response, slowing for the insights, and basically, and as Twilio grown up, they did a lot of acquisition also. Now the ask is to get those data also available to get make them queryable, to build an insight on top of that. But that means that now central team has to Spanish streams and like build new systems to get those data also available, and that will cause more delay in making that available. So basically, if you look at that, these all examples is that central team is started to be a bottleneck and a scaling issue for making data more available for queryable purpose or for insights. And as you can see in the picture here, there is always ask for more ETLs, more pipeline over there. We always say yes, we can build that, and then the required team will file Jira, and it will go in a Scrum by Scrum, and because it will depend on the velocity of central team here. So we kind of started to see these kind of in last 6 and 1 year, we kind of see that these kind of things are happening, and we are causing like we are being a bottleneck for a lot of these things. And we anticipated that in future, as Twilio is growing more and more, it will become more prominent. So we started to look into the solution for these kind of challenges. So we looked into data mesh, and we saw that okay, this may be a possible solution. So look into that. So you can see how like, we kind of compare between how from monolithic it could go to a domain-oriented pipeline. And the best thing the data mesh came in with is that decentralized data architecture in such a way that each product and domain team itself started to own the data, do the data quality, GDPR, and all those kind of things, and taking away a lot of the responsibility from the central team so that they can move faster based on their speed and requirement around. And this all, like, you can analyze, this with a similar way that microservice has been came in culture, that okay, you have a monolithic systems code base, and you want to scale a particular system, and also you break down in microservice and you concentrate on each one of them, and scope it down in such a way. Similar way, we have to bring similar concepts in the data also, where you can have a team owns and serve their data and follow the common standards there. And instead of being a central team, you look into that, okay, divide that whole responsibility, and take the domain teams take more part on that. Since we are talking on data mesh, we can't go without talking these four principles here. First principle here is a domain-oriented ownership. It means that the data producers now are owning the data and managing it and maintaining it, rather than the central team. The best concept here is a data as a product. So you can't just treat it as a data as like, okay, this available consumption and all that. Rather, you have to think in a product way. The data itself become a product which is in consumable format. So there would be someone who is responsible to annotate it, to make it discoverable, make it very reliable, and define some other adjectives on top of that. So the consumer can know, okay, how to look into that, how to consume it. Basically, it's asking you to think in terms of consumers, how they're going to consume your data, and you expose it that way. Self-serve data infrastructure is like, if I take in the Twilio way, it's more like, so not everyone should start from the scratch. Rather, it should be more like you have a kiosk of tools, and these teams can take those tools and see how to use them and getting, rather than worrying about those tools and maintaining that someone else is managing and maintaining that tools around. So, but that's not be the only tool. You will have your own domain, can have their own kind of specification around, but these are the most common tools around. Someone can, a platform tool is supposed to serve it. And the last is the most important one, is the federated governance. So earlier when the Twilio was there, if you look at the last architecture, here is mostly a role-based access control. We had that, and that means there is a central team who is defining that, okay, there would be a data analyst role, and these are the tables which be available in that role. But as Twilio and as enterprise grows, these roles started to hard to manage, and you will have so many permutation and combination that it start to be a little messier. So we started to look into this one, that how our governance should be more federated. Means it's instead of thinking in the role, rather thinks in terms of this data set, how it should be accessed, what should be the sensitivity of it. Domain understands, and they should be supposed to do that. So we are pushing that also decisions around to the teams, rather than a central team which may not have that domain information. So now we're going to talk about how we implemented this data mesh in Twilio. So we basically have three actors. There are others also, but these are the main three actors. One is the data producer, the central data platform, and the consumer side. And now I'll talk about the responsibility of each of their. So data producer is the one who is managing their data, they're owning their data, and they are the one who is responsible to make it compliant, maintaining high quality data, making sure that it's having the freshness, meeting the SLO and SLA, and also defining how someone gonna get access here, uh, what kind of sensitivity it has. And when you talk about the data access policy, they only are responsible for defining their policy, not implementing it. It will be responsibility of that data platform, central data platform, to see what kind of tools it can build to make the access management, and define the flow, how it's gonna happen. But how someone going to access the tables and what should be the policy around that will be the data owner's responsibility here, data producer responsibility. And basically we kind of merge the two concepts here, data ownership as well as the data product. So that's the role which data producer has been defining. Central data platform, as I talked about already, it's kind of the team which producing those tools required across all the teams, and as well as provisioning and managing tools like Presto, DataGapes, Looker, and all, which is can be used by rest of the studios. Maintaining a tools for data discovery, so that not every team has to do that. Rather, there is a central platform teams which is doing providing tools for discovering data, cataloging it, and providing a tool to the add the quality of attributes to your data sets. As well, we have seen that some of the pipelines like CDC pipeline and all, which is very well defined, is a generic enough that can be managed by data platform itself and can be used by domain to do their use it for moving their data from source to destination kind of things. Similar way, the high level data modeling. So as a Twilio level data modeling is the responsibility of data platform, but as a demo level data modeling is going to the domain data producer here. And the last here is the other actor is last actor is the data consumer, who are mostly responsible for consuming this data, building the ETLs, and producing a new data. So it's a very small amount of data they produce around, but they're mostly the high consumers of all these operational business data around. When we were implementing database here, we kind of took some assertions and constraints, and some of the assertions and constraints here very simple here. And I'm trying to be very pragmatic here because Leo is mostly AWS SOP. So we have say this constraint that the data sharing across the domain will only happen through S3. Uh, for only those data who are living in S3, and the S3 should be the one data format here, and no one should directly access S3 directly, rather than they should follow the abstraction of AWS Glue Catalog, and that means that Glue Catalog should have all the information for those who want to be shared. Data should be shared around. And as I was talking earlier, the role-based access management, we're already seeing that it requires a central team to govern that, and we are moving that away, and we are trying to push that onus on the domain data owners now. That okay, how should be data access and all that, and for that, we thought that TBAC, the lake formation based tag based access control, would be a good way to do that, so they can define the tags on their data sets itself. And the other constraint we had is that make data in a much more better queryable format like Parquet, Apache Hudi, Delta, and Iceberg, rather than something which is write efficient, because you're trying to share with data whether so make sure that is performant. At the same time, we took some a strategy decision that never share the data, because the moment you share the data, you add more complication uh, in extra copy of data, means there's a compliance issue, there can be more potential of error happening, there can be quality issues and all those kind of things. So avoid the data copy as much as possible. In fact, never do that, and only share the metadata across domains, and keep accessing the data in the source itself, so that you don't have any stale data, you have high quality data, and you're not getting to the compliance issues around. The other also strategy we took is when you share the data between domains, make sure that that's non-grantable, and that means that if domain A is sharing data with domain B shouldn't be uh, spreading that data again to anyone else. Domain B should be content with that. If someone needs their data, they need to go to the original source here. So with that, I will get into the high level architecture here. So the high level architecture, if you look at the left side, they are the data producers, and the central team is here, and then the right side box is here, like displaying the consumer side here. So as you can see, we are very much in the hybrid world as of now. We have the original pipeline, which is a central data platform that's still happening, and we are very pragmatic here in terms of we know that there is a small teams also there who doesn't have that much, the like have the capacity to build their own data lake and all those, so they are still producing data to us, and we are kind of managing that. But we are kind of in hybrid world, we are kind of pushing that to the database here. So a lot of these domains who can manage their own, and you can think each domain here boxes here as the AWS account. So there is a very multi AWS account architecture here. So each AWS account has their own S3, have their own Glue catalog where they catalog it, so that someone can access it, and they have their own access policy defined in lake formation. Now, if this team is ready that okay, this table is in consumer format, I want to share it with the rest of the Twilio, they're gonna come and connect to a tool we have built, database tool, which kind of enforce that whatever data you want to share, you should have the access think around this quality SLO and all being think through that. That's how this whole tooling allow you to do that. So it kind of enforce that all kind of strategy. And once this all configuration being provided, this tool does the sharing from this account to some other account, and whichever one domain to other domain around. At the same time, if you look at this one, there is a two flow here. One flow is that these are the different teams who are also AWS account. They want to access this shared data. They can go in Data Hub and see that okay, what kind of discover the data, look into their quality, and come back and say that oh, I want to access this data. This tool will again provision it, but it makes sure that you go through the approval process and all that. Similar way, the other way to access is the human users who are gonna be accessing this data. For that, we built a pipeline here, which they go and request service now saying that, oh, I want to access this data. And it goes and connect with a API here, which provides controls all the flows, how the approval flow can go into that. Once all the approval flow and mechanism happens, this uh, this data set become available for this user to consume it. And you can see here that now it's this data mesh. There is most of the things is on the domain side. They are producing and they are controlling how I'm going to govern it and making it available for rest of the Twilio to consume it. Some of the challenges we had here, fine-grained access control on S3 is still a big problem. Uh, like some of the tools here AWS provide, but still there's a lot of vending APIs and all goes into that. So cross account becomes a very problem with even lake formation. And we are still working on something with approval flow and all there. Though we have a concept here that the data owners can define and they need to approve it. But we are still in process. We are thinking through it how to evolve even more and make it more streamlined. So introducing data council, data steward, those kind of things around. Yes, so that's pretty much I had to cover. Thank you. Any questions?
Nice, Akash. Yeah, I think we do have a few questions. So let me start to take them one by one. Okay, first
Sure.
one. James is saying, really good presentation, Akash. Do you use data contracts? And if so, what tools do you use to store them? And what data do you store in them? And how do you ensure that the contracts are honored?
Awesome. Yeah, that's a very good question. And we are, in fact, thinking around it. Uh, we are working on it. And mostly we are thinking that we're going to use the data hub to maintain that contract. And whenever the sharing happens and all that, they will come with the data contracts. And that definition will live in the data hub, Acryl data hub, as of now, we are using that.
Hmm. We got another one from Vinod. Do you centralize the data infrastructure pieces? So that is like, does ingestion have a central team, or each team does their own ingestion?
No, so we push to that to domain. So we have a central team here, which is like coming from some of the CDC pipeline, and so we are living in hybrid world. Some of the old existing system was from DB we're replicating, so it's following the CDC pipeline. Data is coming from Kafka to on this. So those are still working, but as of now, the strategy is to push that to the domain, and domain team is independent enough to see that okay, tool which tool or what AWS managed service they can use. At the same time, we kind of provide a lot of these CDC patterns and all, as I told, we provide them as a tool. So if that fits in their build, they can use that. But at the same time, they are very independent to go and pick up something else which might help them.
Yeah, you're building like a platform for them, and they can choose to use it. If that tool is the best tool for the job, then they're welcome to use it. But you are
Exactly.
building tools that sort of keep the different domains' needs in mind.
Exactly.
We got one from Jason here. Did you guys start with the central data lake and then slowly move towards distributed model?
Exactly. So, in fact, that will I will suggest if the org is small enough, central is generally works well. Okay, but as Twilio has grown up to enterprise level, big enterprise now, so uh, that started to be that's where we started to see the bottlenecks with the central platform. That okay, central platform need to do all those, and that's where the slowness as well as now you are on the central team to provide a lot of capacity and which kind of slows the domains, and that's how we are kind of adopting for a hybrid culture here where we have still a central. So for the small teams and for small use cases they can use that, but for the bigger domains and which has a big data itself they can run their own systems.
We got another one here from Amaresh. What exact tools or services are you using for governance?
Okay, so as of now, we are mostly are using the lake formation based controls here. So all the definition for a table, how someone can access and all those are available in the lake formation. We are using this tool is also built on top of that to do the multi-account sharing. And on top of that, we have our own custom implementations to how the approval flow and all those gonna go through. And for the maintaining the approval flow and all, we are using ServiceNow to orchestrate the approval flows and how someone can access that.
We got one more here. Anand, I think he was responding to something you were saying earlier. Is it a centralized approach on top of a decentralized model?
Centralized approach on decentralized approach
Yeah,
on top of.
I think there probably was context, when they first submitted this. I'm not sure exactly what this. Anant, if you want to specify what
Yeah, and
exactly.
it's more like evolution for us. We started with central. Now, though we are living in a hybrid world where some of things are in the central,
Yeah,
but we are trying to push for decentralized as much as possible, so that domain can govern, and that's what the hypothesis is around here. The strategy is that domain teams knows the data, they know how to govern it, they know how to whether the GDPR and sensitivity of that. A
yeah.
central team can help them, and that's what the role we are trying to play, to help them to, as a platform to build that tools. But the governance and the strategy, how going to be access, GDPR compliant, quality, and all those goes to the domain team.
Okay, we got one more here from James. How have you measured the ROI and the success measures aligned with delivery of business objectives to demonstrate business value and benefits for changing architecture in such a way?
Oh, that's awesome question, and very hard one also. So the success here is in terms of customer satisfaction, the speed of data which we can move around, how much data new I can onboard. So one way to measure it also, like since we have this tool and this concept, how many new people have onboarded and how many new dashboards and all this getting facilitated. So that was one of the measurement we took around. On top of that, we kind of like tied up ourselves, our success with the customer success, who are the other product teams who are using our tools to build more insights. Like one success would be the AI teams who are building more new insights and like making more products, just because we can enable them. So that also is kind of success for us. So those kind of things are there. I don't have a straight answer for that, but it's kind of mix of all those kind of around things.
Okay, maybe one last one from Vasant here. Maybe a couple more if I can squeeze another one in. Do you have FinOps or manage cost attribution for the platform in some way?
We are looking into that. As of now, and that's what the other goal also, that if you move to the domain, then the cost attribution can be done easily. So right now, if you look around that this data cleansing, making data quality around, and all those kind of push to this domain team. So now the cost attribution for maintaining that data sets is on the domain and can be easily been around that. Okay, this domain is costing this much to us. Whereas central team has become very complicated, that like you have to attribute each, and it's become a multi-tenant product there, so it's very hard to quantify and put the cost around that. But this strategy also with database is kind of pushing data to their domain, so it's easy to quantify that this much, how much is this team is costing for just making this data available. I don't know whether I answered the question, but let me know if you have any follow-up.
Yeah. Well, I think we got to get going for the next stage. But I will tell you one thing, Aakash. I feel like the conversation with you both in the beginning and before we hit go live, and now just seeing that diagram, that system diagram that you put as like the final version of V2, inspires in me. Like I feel like we need to just, I want to like sit down with you for like 2-3 hours and just
Yeah, it is.
really on each one of these pieces, just like to zoom in. What exactly do you mean by this? And like, to what extent does the domain owner actually have the tools and the ability? Like, there's so many different questions, and I feel like we should unpack this somewhere. This was as long as we can make it right now, but there should be a part two. Akash, thank you very much
Sure.
for joining us today.